Welcome to Journey to Queendom, the sacred space where survival ends and sovereignty begins. I'm your host, Marci J. Duncan, and this is where we lay down the cape of overachievement, code switching, and self-doubt, and we pick up the crown of softness, wholeness, and authenticity. Hey everybody, Marci J. Duncan here, your host to the podcast Journey to Queendom. You guys have come back yet another week as I share my journey to Queendom, and I hope that it is helping you in your journey. And let's get into it. Let's do our check-in. It's important for me to check in with you to make sure you are well. Keep the conversation going with me in the comments. I love reading what you guys are sharing, how you guys are growing. So let's check in this week's episode, okay? When we last spoke, I asked you to take stock of the condition of your soul. What is the condition of your heart? Where are you? What is the condition of your soul? Talk to me about it. I also asked you to write a list of the things that you ought to do and the things that you should do. At least that's what other people are telling you. How did that go? Did you identify those things that people are putting on you that are not necessarily yours? Are you identifying your authentic voice? You know, when I was little, my sister and I, we were two peas in a pod because we were 18 months apart. We are 18 months apart. And I noticed that all of the grown-ups that we were around always chose her to be the special one over me. And, there was no ill intention or anything like that. It's just she was the preferred one. And I could not understand why. Why wasn't I the chosen one? Because I was nice. I was easy. I was accommodating. I always had a smile on my face. And my sister was mean as spit, okay? She said what she felt. She was a spitfire. If she didn't like something, she would say it. But I figured it out. They chose her because she was authentic. Friends, lean in to your own authenticity. It is the best gift that you can give this world. It is the best gift that you can give back to yourself. Okay, so today's episode is locking in to authenticity. And this is the point in my journey that was very significant. And it's because it's where I really found out who I really was, how much I had allowed to go on in my life that I didn't want to have happen in my life, and how, based on my traumas from the past, and how I responded in the past to things that I did not want was the same way that I was responding now to things I did not want. And the way that I was responding was just go along with it. Don't raise a fuss. Convince yourself that you want it. Escape the pain that you feel because of the choices that you're making, and so forth and so on. So these coping mechanisms came from the survival mode that I had used in my life to cope with the areas in my life that I was unhappy, with the trauma that I was continuously trying to forget and to hide. And once I started connecting the dots, and once I started to uncover all of the ways in which I was killing myself, all of the ways in which I was operating against the things that I truly wanted, the things that I said I wanted. I remember I have a friend of mine that I talk to quite a lot. And one of the things that he would always say when we would have our little, you know, catch up sessions is, Marci, what do you want? And if that's what you say you want, then why are you not doing it? And I would have all of these excuses, all of these things. Now, of course, I didn't see them as excuses at that time, but I had all of these reasons as to why it was not yet time, or why I needed to prepare more, or why I needed to get through this situation in order to allow myself to have permission to go and get what I wanted. And it would bother me. Every time I would get off the phone, I would just have this uneasiness in my spirit and in my heart, because I knew somewhere inside I was frustrated. I was frustrated because I knew I should be moving forward. I knew I should be further along in the things that I wanted versus working on the things that other people wanted me to do. You know, I was good at making other people's vision come to light. I am a good team player. I am an awesome team member. I can take the vision and make it come to life. And not only come to life, but do it in a spirit of excellence for other people, for other organizations, for other missions. But for myself, some reason I was not moving forward. I was not putting that same effort into myself. So my trauma had taught me that what I wanted was not worthy of pursuing. What I wanted did not matter. As a matter of fact, I felt guilty for communicating the things I wanted. I felt ashamed that I had no right to say what I wanted. Now, of course, in the skin that I'm in now, it all sounds ridiculous, but it was my truth that I was living in. And it was a part of the fabric, and still is in many ways, of who I am, of who I was, of who I became, because of traumatic situations, because of coping mechanisms that I learned. Now, I in no way am saying that I don't appreciate the survival mode, the coping mechanisms, because that's why I'm sitting here today. That is why I'm able to share my testimony. That is why I'm able to say, I am making it. I am showing up for myself today. Those coping mechanisms were absolutely necessary at that time for that season. But this season that I am in now, where I believe God wants to take me to the very place that I've always envisioned, that I've always known that could be my reality, I am knocking at the door right now. And I cannot take survival mode with me. And I've known this in my mind for a long time, but it was difficult for me to let it go. It was difficult for me to really have the courage to face the things that I needed to face, to deal with the things that I needed to deal with. And they were not outside of me. They had nothing to do with anybody else. It was all on the inside of me. The things that I needed to handle, the things that I needed to deal with was me. And it was so difficult because I was running, I was escaping, I was disassociating, I was achieving, right? I was doing all of these things instead of honing in to my authentic self, right? And I talked about in previous episodes how this authenticity type of journey started, prompted by the George Floyd murder, because I realized, you know, I could be doing everything right, and still people will still find a way to discredit you, still find a way to send these subliminal messages that you don't belong, that you're not worthy. And I believe them because of my own insecurities, because of my own trauma, because of my own wounds, right? I believe that. But when this thing happened, when this whole political unrest and social unrest and COVID happened, I realized I have been doing all of this, playing all of these roles, putting on all of these personas, and it still isn't working. They still don't accept me. So why am I not just being me? Why am I not just being me? And furthermore, why is that the last thing I offer? And I found those answers as I began to dig and I began to be more curious of how to get closer to my authentic self. Of course, I didn't know that that's what I was doing at the time. I was just so angry and so mad. I needed a change. I needed something different because what I was doing was not working. It was only frustrating me. And I went in quest for a change, of a change. And of course, because I am spiritually minded in my own life, the first place I looked was God. I'm like, look, what is up? I am finally ready to listen to you. I am finally ready to hear the real answer. Please show me. Please tell me. And he gave me the tools. He gave me the tools through therapy and through consistent time and devotion in my word and time and devotion with my meditation time with him. A whole new world was uncovered, right? Because I had tried to tap in before, but I wasn't really consistent. And the reason why I wasn't consistent because I wasn't hungry. I wasn't curious. I was just looking for a quick band-aid to make me feel better about my existence, right? But now I was hungry. I was bleeding out and a band-aid would not do. I needed surgery. And I needed the master surgeon to do that surgery on my heart because I could see it. I could see it through the eyes of my husband looking back at me, through the eyes of my sons looking back at me. My own inner heart and mind was in turmoil, and nobody had the answers. Nobody had the answers. So I knew it was time for me to lay on that surgery table and let God do the work. Instead of me trying to do it, instead of me trying to fix myself, instead of me trying one more program, instead of me trying one more 3-step way to happiness, instead of me reading one more self-help book, I needed to go to the source to find out who I am, who God created me to be, because that's the only thing that I was not in quest of. And before, I was not curious about that. I thought I knew, I thought I understood. I thought I knew who I was, this independent Black woman who was smart, and all those things are true, but they became my identity. They became the way I moved through life. And so people expected more and more and more of that person because that's the person I presented. Yeah. So the quest became, who am I? God gave me the tools, of course, through devotion, daily devotion and meditation, silence before him. He began to really speak some things into my heart. And I stopped talking so much. And I started being quiet in his presence and listening. And I said, Lord, I want to hear from you for once, right? Instead of me going to him, telling him all these things that I need and I want and I know, I was desperate. I wanted to hear from him. And that he did. He spoke. He spoke, right? When I got quiet. And he also gave me the tool and the gift of therapy. And therapy was instrumental. It was so instrumental to helping me connect the dots between my trauma and my wounds and who I was and who I wasn't. So in previous episodes, I talked about this trauma therapy called EDMR, and I explained what it is, and you can certainly look it up. But what this process did when my therapy started to institute this type of trauma therapy, it revealed what my core belief systems were. Not the core belief systems that I was born with or that God put inside of me, but the core belief systems that I had developed and believed based on trauma. That's why it was trauma therapy, because it identifies all of those belief systems that you have developed and you have created based on these things that you've gone through, based on these traumatic situations and circumstances, and based on the results of your coping mechanisms that were not necessarily beneficial to you. And those belief systems they were something else, friends. They were something else. Some of them were surprising to me as I said them out loud. And she guided me through this process. And I started to hear out of my mouth these core belief systems. And once they came out of my mouth, it was heartbreaking. It was heartbreaking that I was walking around with these negative belief systems about myself and about how I related to other people and to God, quite honestly, and how I was operating from this flawed belief system. And what the therapy practice helped me to do was to counter those belief systems with the truth, right? With the absolute truth. Because the belief system that I had was definitely not true. But I believed them as truth. I was walking in life, through life, as if these things were absolutely true. And what this belief system was doing to me was the rose-colored glasses that I was viewing life through. It shielded me from seeing the truth of how things are, but it only allowed me to see through my warped vision of my negative core belief system that I never even knew. I never even knew that I was operating from this belief system, because I'm a smart, intelligent Black woman, and I know not to think negative thoughts. I know that these things are not true about me. But how many of you know that the body keeps score? The body keeps score of every single traumatic event that you have ever been through. And your body remembers it. So it doesn't matter what you know or what you think you know. It matters what you believe. It matters what you believe, because what you believe, your body comes into alignment with. It comes into alignment with. And before you know it, you're faced with situations and you're running and you don't even know why you're running, because of your core belief system. So this process helped me to really pull back the black and white truth of what was going on in here and in my mind, my heart and my mind. What was going on in there? And once I uncovered those belief systems through this process, I started to develop affirmations with my therapist that countered those belief systems. And my practice was to rehearse this affirmation list that directly countered the negative core belief system. Now, this is a huge difference with just saying affirmations. I am smart. I am beautiful. I am kind. I am important. Those are fantastic and those are beneficial, because words really do shape your existence. So words are really, really important. But the difference here is first realizing and identifying your core negative belief system that is on the inside of you, and directly countering those thoughts, not just some random thoughts, not just some random belief systems, not just some random affirmations, but affirmations that are targeting your negative core belief system. That is the difference. That is where this process goes to the next level. So I'm not just merely in my room reciting affirmations just to recite them. I am targeting that negative core belief system, taking away its power, disarming it, killing it, plucking it from the root with the truth, right? With the truth. So these affirmations are not just positive. Yeah, they're positive, but it's also truth. And it's also in direct response to my negative core belief system. Now, friends, that is the difference. That is the difference, right? One of my negative core belief systems was that I am not safe and I have to secure my own safety. right? That was a negative core belief for me based on my trauma, based on my wounds. So my truth is God is with me. God is always with me. And because God is with me, I am safe. I am secure. God is with me. God is always with me. So if God is with me, I am safe. I am secure. So that new affirmation directly uproots that negative, harmful core belief system, right? It immediately challenges it so that now I can move differently. And how am I moving differently? Because I'm in direct challenge to that negative core belief system. So the more I did this, the more I challenged my negative core belief system, the more my perspective is starting to change, the more my true self begins to emerge. And I realized that I was in constant search for my own safety, that I was in constant search to secure and make sure that nobody is taking advantage of me, that I am absolutely trying to figure out, okay, where's the threat? Identify the threat, secure myself. Can you imagine what a relief it is to relinquish the constant need to protect yourself and just exist and believe and trust that you are safe and that you are secure? Can you imagine the weight that is shed when that mindset is changed? When that core belief is changed, it's almost like when you release it, you free up space in your heart and in your body for a new experience that you've never experienced before, which is safety, which is security, which is the presence of God always. You know, one of the things that I thought in my negative belief system that kept me from experiencing this freedom was that bad things are happening. Bad things have happened. Where was God? If God was there, he should have stopped it. He knew it was going to happen. He should have kept me from going through those things. That is the core belief system that stopped me from believing that I was safe and secure because God was there. First of all, I didn't realize that God was there with me. I thought he had turned his back on me and allowed these things to happen. Now, I never said these things out loud, of course, because I'm a believer. I'm not supposed to think these things. I'm not supposed to have these doubts. But the truth of the matter is the more I started to uncover these negative core belief systems, all of these other thoughts and beliefs started to have no merit. So then where I thought God turned his back on me, I realized God was in the room. And when I realized God was in the room, I said, God, what were you doing? What were you doing when I was there, when I was alone, when I was in that corner, when I was having to deal with this? Where were you? Now my ears are open. The space in my heart and my mind has been freed up. So now I can hear the truth and God can say to me, Marci, I was holding you. I was crying with you. I was bottling up those precious tears and reminding you that you are not this circumstance, that you have no reason to fear because I am with you. I am walking with you. We are hand in hand. I have your face in my hand. And I am telling you, focus on me, Marci. Focus on me. Because guess what? You're going to make it. You're going to come out. You're going to come out of this fire and you are not even going to smell like smoke. This is what I have not been able to see All of this time because my negative core belief system had me tied down to thinking that I was abandoned, that I was rejected, that I did not have anybody, that no one will come and rescue me. Nobody. And it was right. No man could come and rescue me. No person was there with me. But I was not alone, friends. I was not alone in my grief. I was not alone in my suffering, in my pain. I was not alone. Never was I alone. And now I see him in those situations. I see him, how he took my hand as a little girl and gave me the gift of creativity. So that even in that time that he gave it to me, well in my bones, he said, here, you're going to need this. This is going to help you. I didn't know it at the time, but now, 30, 40 years later, I see that gift that he gave me way back then in that trauma, in that pain. Now I understand the expression of this gift, the telling of my testimony through my gift is freeing not just me, friends, but so many others. And that is what my negative core belief system had me blind to. God allowed me to be free in my heart and in my mind by simply allowing me to identify the lie and replace it with the truth. Y'all, that was a lot. So now I have the ability, because I'm steadily freeing up space. Every time I go back to this therapist and uncover and work and use my courage to do the work, to put in the work, every time I'm going back here, more space is being freed up on the inside of me. So now I can really see myself as queen. I can see myself as queen. I can see that now. As before, I couldn't imagine that. I couldn't see it. Yeah, I could say it. And yes, I could be sassy. And yes, I can own the room and go in the room and be a queen. Yes, queen. Yes, I could do all that. But that stuff didn't change me on the inside. That stuff didn't allow me to heal on the inside. But now, friends, now there is space opening up. It is working. I can see the healing taking place. I can feel the healing taking place. I feel my desires coming back. I feel myself rising up and saying no to things that I was too scared to say no to before. Now I can find my voice and free my voice, my real true voice that says, I don't want that. I don't believe that. I don't agree with that. I don't care what you think. I am going to still do me. Now I am starting to see the queen within. I am seeing her manifest right before my eyes as the space on the inside of me starts to free up. There was a moment at work where it was just so crazy to me. I'm doing all this work and doing all this work. And there came a moment where I had to speak up. And I had to tell the truth about what I've been feeling. I had to uncover some injustice that was happening at work. And where before I would have been shaking in my boots, not able to sleep, rehearsing the conversation over and over and over again, and avoiding it at all costs. Y'all, I walked up in there. I was so filled with courage and confidence and clarity in my communication. And when I was challenged, I was able to quickly discern the manipulation and the gaslighting tactics, quickly discerned it and was able to call it on its head and call it out. And I didn't have to roll my neck, not one time. I didn't have to clap my hands, not one time, because I'm known for clapping them hands, honey, when I'm getting you together. I didn't have to do any of that, friends. I sat in that chair with a smile on my face and I said my piece. And y'all, That's freedom for me and my journey. That is freedom. My voice was starting to be free. Y'all, in my marriage, I was able to say to my husband, hey, I shut you out today because something that you did triggered me. And I went into my mind of escapism. And I went into my mind of, I'm the only one who loves me. I'm the only one who can protect me. And I shut you out. And I don't like doing that to you. And I'm sorry. I want to talk to you about this thing, this trigger. Y'all, who am I? The queen that God has called me to be. That's who I am. That's who I am. Now, I'm not going to tell you that these things magically happened because they didn't. Y'all, they didn't. This is years in the making. Years. I started this quest, like I told you, 2022. When the whole George Floyd thing happened. Y'all, this has been a process. There have been many times where I was starting to change on the inside, and I'm like, Lord, I need to say this, but I'm scared. I'm scared. I don't know. I don't know if I can. And you know what? God was patient with me. I didn't do it that day. I didn't do it the next day. I didn't do it the day after that, or however long it took me, but I eventually did it. And I still get afraid. I still get fearful. But God has given me the freedom with the space that He's opening up on the inside of my heart. He's given me the freedom to speak my truth, to be my authentic self, and to tell the truth. Because y'all, I would be all kinds of deceiving. Not to deceive others, but to deceive myself, to convince myself that I didn't want this, or it's okay to let this boundary happen, be pushed over, right? And so I would tell people things to make them happy, but it wasn't my truth. I would tell people things, if I didn't want to go to a certain thing and they had invited me to go, I would say, girl, I got this thing coming up and oh God, I can't do it. Instead of saying, you know what, honey, I want to be there for you, but I'm tired and I'm going to have to sit this one out. Y'all, before, to tell that truth, my brain would have said, that's not enough, Marci. They're not going to forgive you. They're not going to understand. They're going to think that you're flaking out on them. They're going to blah, 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 all of these things. But the truth of the matter is, what I'm learning is, whether they will accept it or not, it is what it is. And you know what? When I hung up that phone, or when I walked away from that conversation, I had peace. That's another space on the inside that had opened up. That's another jewel on my crown, guys. The more I said yes to myself, my authentic self, the more I told my truth using my voice, my real voice, and the more I was honest and walk in integrity, the more I was able to free up space to walk this journey to queendom. It was free. I was becoming free. So then I had to look at, guys, my priorities, the priorities in which I had set up my life. And for a long time, my priority was the other. What are they going to think? How are they going to experience me? What are they going to feel? Right? And that was not the right order. And God told me this because I thought to put myself first was ungodly. Because we got to be humble, right? We got to be filled with humility. And that is true, but that is not at the expense of your own soul, of your own person, of your own heart and mind. I had to put myself first and learn how to start receiving care. Now, that is a whole journey. So we'll see you next time. Thank you for walking this stretch of the journey with me. If something in today's episode stirred your spirit, share this episode with a sister. Leave a review or connect with me on social media. Remember, your softness is sacred. Your healing is your birthright. And your queendom It's already within you. Until next time, keep rising and claim your inheritance. This podcast was brought to you by Artists at Play, nurturing the artist within.